I have been obsessed with this topic for far too long. Ever since I first heard of a homunculus about 5 or 6 years ago, the concept has been floating around in my mind. In fact, 2 of our original Foundry short stories, The Broken Glass Circus and Faith in the Misbegotten, both feature one in some capacity, if you look for it. I've been interested and aware, but never really driven to figure out what a homunculus actually is. Last year, I finally came across a story that made me want to. Homunculus by James Blaylock is one of the weirdest books I've ever read. Between the zeppelins and puzzle boxes and reanimated corpses and Victorian spaceships, it's very easy to feel a little dazed by the whole experience. Honestly, it's a riot. But behind everything, there's the consistent thread of the homunculus, the much sought-after little man in the glass jar whose very presence is powerful enough to change the fates of the characters who come across it. Even mine, apparently. I'm making this video now, aren't I? But it's a happy coincidence because I think it's long past time I dug into this anyway. It may not be the most important part of the tale, but it's certainly one of the more interesting bits. A big thanks to Campfire writing and world-building software for making this video possible. And a big thanks to our Patreon supporters as well. We love you. As bizarre and esoteric as the topic may seem, you might actually be more familiar with it than you think. Homunculi have not been altogether forgotten by modern media. In the anime Fullmetal Alchemist, they're the principal antagonists. Across the internet, they've been the subject of endless pseudo-scientific hoaxes. They even show up in places as far-flung as the ancient MMORPG, RuneScape. The general understanding seems to be that they're artificial humanoids created through magic. An interesting concept, to be sure, but this is definitely one of those scenarios where fact is far stranger than fiction. The term homunculus is Latin for little person, but if we look at the period of time during which people started using that term, the definitions get quite a bit more inventive. In his book Onomastica II, the 16th century scholar Michael Toxides described homunculi as little men or images created in similarity to humans, possessing in itself the invisible man deriving from the stars. The invisible man deriving from the stars? I guess that probably means something about spiritual purity? It's hard to tell with these cryptic old texts sometimes. But you see what I mean. Instantly strange. Carl Jung believed that the first ever example of homunculi appeared in a 3rd century Greek text called Visions of Zosimos, which chronicles the dream journey of an alchemist. Along the way, he encounters several creatures which he refers to as anthroparians, which, again, means something akin to small humans. On one occasion in particular, a character in the story, quote, melts into the opposite of himself, into a mutilated anthroparian. Again, the concept of a homunculus being somehow reflective of the human soul, only this time in a bad way, also a far more intimate way. This version of the homunculus seems to be a part of you, which, under the right circumstances, can be revealed. Thinking in a very similar vein, 17th century scholars thought of homunculi as something altogether more ridiculous, mostly because they treated it like actual science instead of fantasy. Spermists like Nicholas Hartsoker, yes, spermist was an actual occupation, apparently, believed in what they called the theory of preformation, which posited that every living thing that will ever be already exists, just at so minute a scale as to be imperceptible to the naked eye. These complete, preformed, nanoscopic individuals were known either as homunculi or animalcules, depending on whether they would become a person or an animal. Get them into the right environment, such as a womb or an appropriate alchemical apparatus, and slowly, they grow into more familiar, full-scale life forms. But the first known appearance of the homunculus by name appeared in the works of the 16th century scholar Paracelsus. He gives us, by far, the most complete picture. Throughout his writings, he describes a great variety of homunculi and practices surrounding them. Some of the ideas appear to be very sporadic, and at times even contradictory, but he does provide a useful taxonomy, particularly in his works De Homunculus et Monstris, Vom Lagenleben, and De Natura Rerum. According to him, there are 3 primary types of homunculi. First, we have the more innocuous magical homunculus, which is more of a symbol than anything. He describes it as a doll or a mommet made from earth, wax, or metal as a simulacra of a living person. It can then be used magically to protect or harm that person, much like a voodoo doll. There is a variety of applications for this, but suffice it to say he saw this as a very spiritual thing, a good way to manipulate one's own soul in the physical space. Next, more in line with preformation theory and more mythological sounding by a mile, we have the pathological homunculus. These are monsters. Think of a basilisk or a cockatrice and you're on the right track. They're produced through what Paracelsus viewed as an unnatural or impure exposure of human seed. Essentially, if it ends up anywhere other than the uterus or the appropriate alchemical apparatus, it will turn into a monster. Quote, "Whatever the air touches is no longer seed, but a material of homunculus." And finally, the one you've probably been waiting for, and the one that initially drew me to this topic all those years ago, the alchemical homunculus. The artificial little person in the glass jar. This is where things get really weird. Let me read you an excerpt from one of Paracelsus's books. The process for creating a homunculus this way requires, and I quote, that the sperm of a man be putrefied by itself in a sealed cucurbit for 40 days with the highest degree of putrefaction in a horse's womb, or at least so long that it comes to life and moves itself and stirs, which is easily observed. After this time, it will look somewhat like a man, but transparent without a body. If, after this, it be fed wisely on the arcanum of human blood, and be nourished for 40 weeks, and kept in the even temperature of a horse's womb, a living human child grows therefrom, with all its members like another child, which is born of a woman, but much smaller. Gross. But, for its absolute weirdness, also fascinating. This quote was actually my first ever exposure to the homunculus, and you can probably see why I was disturbed and mystified enough for it to remain in my head for so long. Surprisingly, this wasn't just some weird thing Paracelsus came up with. Plenty of his contemporaries described such processes, and if you look back to ancient Greece, you find something strikingly similar. Bugonia was a practice that sought to spontaneously generate new life from the corpses of animals, very commonly bees or wasps from cow carcasses. You'd prepare the vessel through various means, such as filling it with things like honey and flowers, then plugging up all the orifices, and then you'd leave the treated corpse in a dark, sealed place for some time. Eventually, when you open it back up, ta-da! There will be new life. Plato's Book of the Cow describes such a process, but used to produce a rational animal from human sperm rather than something like bees from honey. Equally gross, even a touch more brutal depending on your outlook, but also equally fascinating. Thankfully, not every alchemist was willing to put animals in harm's way to achieve this. The 9th century Persian practitioner of the art Jabir disavowed these practices, calling the homunculi they produced demonic. So, in his writings, he provides an alternative approach. According to him, if you seal a container of human seed into a large metal rotating sphere, you will simulate the effect of the crystalline spheres that rotate about the Earth itself and produce a homunculus, with a small caveat. Yours won't be evil, so it will have the face of a boy or a girl, naturally. I assume by this he means that it will be more lifelike and human than other homunculi, but again, cryptic old texts. So, we have some methods, we have some definitions, we have a vague idea of what this thing is. Now the question is, why? What is there to gain from all of this weirdness? In James Blaylock's book, the homunculus is a creature from the stars, sought for its strange energies and abilities. In its presence, scientists and engineers are able to achieve feats they never would have otherwise, such as successfully reanimating the dead. In actual history, I imagine a lot of people dreamt of creating homunculi for the same reason: power. Apparently, the 1st century religious figure Simon Magus boasted of his own type of homunculus, which he said not only made him like God, but more powerful than God because he created his from air, which, quote, was a thing more difficult than creating him of earth. In the 18th century, with the help of the Italian cleric Abbe Gelane, Count Johann Ferdinand von Kufstein was rumored to have created 10 homunculi with the ability to see the future. He kept them in glass containers at his Masonic lodge in Vienna, where dignitaries and people of renown would visit to see them. He called them the scrying ghosts. In Plato's Book of the Cow, which I mentioned a little earlier, the homunculus you're instructed to create is supposedly capable of prophecy, able to tell its creator of all things that are absent, whatever that means, and if you vivisect it, you can get your hands on all kinds of mystical components, including fluid that will allow you to walk on water. So, a lot of potential for power here, if you're into that. But homunculi have also historically been seen as beings of deep spiritual significance too. Some people appreciated the concept not because they had anything to gain in concrete terms, but because they found that the idea enriched their souls or gave voice to their ideals. That spermist I mentioned earlier, Nicholas Hartsoker, when it was pointed out to him that there was a ridiculous expansiveness to his preformation theory, that if everyone existed already preformed, then every person with reproductive organs would technically have infinite preformed people inside of them, he actually embraced the idea. He liked how well that clicked with the Christian concept of the original sin. If that was the case, then technically everyone was there for Adam's transgression, so in his view, the perdition of the entire species would make sense. Another case of a very spiritually significant perception of the homunculus comes in the second part of Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's famous story, Faustus, where a homunculus is depicted as a being of pure spirit born into a mortal form, a contrast to Faust's quest to shed his mortal form and become a being of pure spirit. Even Paracelsus himself viewed the homunculus in a shockingly positive light, despite the gruesome manner in which he suggested to make it. He said that it was in no way repugnant to God or nature. He felt it was part of what he called the Christian magia naturalis, which is a type of magic based on faith and imagination. All in all, a far cry from the little alien man in the bottle Blaylock describes, but a powerful symbol and an interesting sort of magic all the same. I'm curious to see what all of you creatives will make of these ideas in your own work, if anything. Be sure to share your ideas in the comments. Of course, if you want to experiment with this on a slightly larger scale, it's going to require a lot of intuition, but also a lot of world building as well. And it's really easy for things to get lost in the shuffle as you go, so to make things just a touch easier on you, I recommend using Campfire Blaze. Campfire Blaze is a browser-based suite of tools to help you keep your writing organized, collaborate with friends in real time, or work by yourself to flesh out every facet of your story. Develop your manuscript in Blaze's word processor, create characters, design your plot, and build your world to your heart's content. When you're done, sharing your story with your friends and fans is super easy. You can also expand Blaze's free version by purchasing the tools you need, and then keep those tools forever, or build your own subscription so you're only paying for the features you need when you need them. Add features for as little as 50 cents a piece, or unlock everything for a few dollars per month. And if you're on the fence, no risk. There's a 30-day return policy. Follow the link in the description to learn more. Write better stories faster with Campfire Blaze. Before we wrap up, I'd like to give a quick thanks to all the helpful humans who support the show on Patreon. All those words you see scrolling in the background of these videos? Those are actually the names of our Patreon maintenance crew, without whom this show would be impossible. And a special word to all of our top patrons, Lord Gate, RPG Grenade, and The Autumn Rider, thank you so much. And that's it for this video. There's usually a few weeks between uploads, so if you want more Tale Foundry in the meantime, come join our community. We have a Discord server that's basically like a big family of creatives, a lot of love there. We also run writing groups on Twitch every week if you want to get some practice in. You can find links to all of it in the description. Hope to see you there. Until then, thanks for watching and keep making stuff up. I'll see you next time. Bye!